You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show. Hey, Barbell Logic listeners, Matt Reynolds here. I recently had the opportunity to present at an event that was extremely special to me. And we felt the context of the talk was relevant to this audience so that this podcast episode is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to. About 12 years ago, I met a guy by the name of James Yeager who had started a company called Tactical Response. And that company trains people on how to safely and effectively protect themselves, save lives, and be harder to kill. And so as my friendship with James grew, I was able to become his strength coach and help him get strong while he poured his tactical and medical response wisdom into me and invited me to be part of his tactical response alumni community. And then around 2019, James was diagnosed with ALS. And the reason we're sharing this tactical response presentation as an episode here is because the voluntary hardship we speak of at Barbell Logic, the very simple choice of putting weight on the bar to get stronger each day, is what enabled James extra time to enjoy his family on this earth before ultimately passing away in 2022. And those are his words. And so this is why we do what we do. This is why we're passionate about strength training for health and quality of life, because we've seen it make a difference in James's life and the life of the hundreds of clients we've served who have been impacted in similar ways. We wanted to share it with you. So I hope my recent talk to the tactical response community shared in this episode resonates with you and inspires you to take whatever next step you need to take to get stronger. To follow along with my slides, as well as access special offers from Barbell Logic and Tactical Response, visit barbelllogic.com/tactical. And I'll just say now, we've got some pretty amazing deals we've put up just for you there. So again, that's barbelllogic.com/tactical for some amazing deals from both Barbell Logic and Tactical Response. And with that, here's my talk from a few weekends ago at the Tactical Response alumni event. First off, I'm grateful to be here. It's a huge honor. I had the honor to be Yeager's strength coach for probably the last 10 or 12 years of his life. Knew him for, 12, 15 years, a long time. And he taught me how to fight and shoot guns, and I taught him how to lift and get strong and lose weight and be harder to kill. And that's really what this talk is about, is that I think for this community and this industry in general, we spend a ton of time, and I think it's valuable time training, the four pillars, the mindset and the tactics and the skill and the gear and the stuff in the tactical world. But those things apply to the physical world as well. Like, we're playing the long game, right? Like, our job is to protect and provide for our family. And I see a consistent challenge, a problem that, like, if you're not strong and you're not healthy and you have a heart attack at 47 and die, why did you spend all the time training to protect your kids and your grandkids and your, I don't just want to walk my daughters down the aisle at their wedding. I want to watch my granddaughters walk the aisle at their wedding and my great-granddaughters, and even build the wisdom and the mentality and the culture in my family 3, 4, 5 generations away from me that may not ever know my name. And I think this is one of the best things that you can do, the most general thing that you can do. And so, yes, Yeager said a couple years ago, at alumni, he called me out. I was sitting there and he was like, stand up. He was like, listen, this motherfucker saved my life and I'm still here today and I'm still walking because he taught me how to be strong and healthy. Obviously, the guy trained all the time in his world. And because he picked this stuff up, for those of you who knew him long enough, like, he used to be a big fat guy out of shape, and then he got strong and healthy, and it allowed him to keep his neuromuscular efficiency longer than a normal person would, certainly with ALS. And so I'm grateful for that. This stuff matters. I'm going to keep it really simple. I'm going to keep it really 30,000 foot view. I used to come and teach classes here. I'll give you a quick background on me. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Barbell Logic. I was an average athlete in high school. I love playing sports. I became an elite level power lifter in the late 90s. I say elite, that sounds like, I realize that sounds like I'm bragging. Elite is an actual classification in powerlifting. So there's like class 4, class 3, class 2, class 1. I think there's professional and then elite. And so I totaled elite, which is a combination of squat, bench press, and deadlift in 4 different weight classes from the 220s to the 308s in kind of late 90s and early 2000s. I turned my attention to strongman, like World's Strongest Man in 2005. I won my pro card in strongman in 2006 and toured on the World's Strongest Man circuit. I was never in the World's Strongest Man. The best I ever got in America was 12th. So I was 12th in America's Strongest Man. You had to be top 3 to make the World's Strongest Man. So I went from being the best amateur in the country in strongman to the worst pro in the whole world overnight. It's kind of like going from college football to the NFL, and you're like, oh, these guys are, you guys have seen like Thor from Game of Thrones and Brian Shaw, and those guys are like 6'7", 6'8", 440. That was who I was competing against. I was like, I need to be a coach and a business owner. So I opened a gym in 2008 called Strong Gym. That's where I first met Jaeger, taught seminars, and a lot of his crew came down, and Nate, and known Nate since those early days as well. And then would come and start to teach these. And so I transitioned really from athlete to coach. And I started to really get some street cred and some chops in the fitness industry as a coach. I opened a gym in 2008 called Strong Gym. And I live in Springfield, Missouri in the Ozarks. That gym grew to the largest strength gym in the country by 2012. I was a public school teacher at the time. We've homeschooled our kids their entire life. I'm so glad I'm out of the public school industry at this point. I got my master's to be a high school principal. I left teaching to run the gym. The gym exploded in a good way. I was able to sell it at the end of 2015. And then I started Barbell Logic, which is an online strength coaching platform. It's basically like online personal training. And I'll talk to you guys about it. I'm definitely nobody's going to get a hard sell here. At this point, we are an 8-figure business. That is weird for probably you to hear. I promise you it's weirder for me to say. I am the son of a poor Baptist preacher's kid that grew up in West Memphis, Arkansas with nothing. And so to run an 8-figure business is mind-boggling. I have an incredible staff. We have 300 people that work for us. We have thousands of clients, one of the biggest fitness companies in the industry. My job today is to convince some of you, if not all of you, but certainly some of you, why you need to be strong and why that will generally adapt and make you better warfighters and, most importantly, harder to kill, which is what is the most important thing. And we'll actually talk about the stats a little bit as I dive into this. But I want to give you another example that's not Jaeger. I realize I wrote on this some. This is Paul Markle. I don't know if some of you guys will know him from Student of the Gun. He's been a client of ours for 10 years, probably. And for those of you who know him, he battled cancer, a really nasty, bad cancer up like in his jaw and in his throat. Gosh, it's probably been 5-6 years ago now. And I asked Paul, I was like, hey, I'd like you. So this picture on the far left is Paul before he got cancer. This is actually at my house. He's deadlifting. This one in the middle is him, his first session back, post-cancer, post-chemo, post-radiation. There's 65, that's a 10-pound plate. There's 65 pounds he's deadlifting there. And this is him today. And Paul will tell you that he's not strong because he beat cancer. He beat cancer because he was strong. Like, let that sink in. The all-cause mortality reduction of being strong plus some basic cardio is 8x all-cause mortality reduction. So we spend a lot of time thinking about active shooters, very important. But the reality is the biggest difference you can make in your life to reduce mortality is this stuff. This guy beat cancer because he was already strong, because he had the lean muscle tissue, because he had built up his body doing voluntary hardship, so that when he had involuntary hardship thrust upon him with cancer, which is something you obviously don't get to choose, he had trained his body to do hard things and he was better able to beat the cancer. And now he's stronger today than he was back then. And of course, 7 years later, older, right? I don't know, how old's Paul? 60 at this point? That's why we do this, right? The refining power of voluntary hardship. I believe that when we choose hard things, it refines us and makes us better, especially if we do it for the right reason. And I don't think weightlifting and strength training is the only thing you can do. There's lots of voluntary hardship, like even going out in 98-degree weather and training on the range. That's voluntary hardship. That's doing stuff that other people won't do. But voluntary hardship refines us and makes us better. In the weight room, it makes us clearly better physically. but I would also argue that it makes us better mentally, emotionally, socially, all of those things, right? Involuntary hardship is not always guaranteed to refine. And we know this because like guys go to prison and they often don't come out better, right? Most of the time they don't come out better. Some people get cancer, even if they beat it, they're jaded for the rest of their life. Some people go through divorces or whatever, and it makes them worse. We can use involuntary hardship to learn lessons, and hopefully you do. All of us are going to have involuntary hardship thrust upon us. But by preparing for the involuntary hardship via voluntary hardship, we've continued to train our bodies and our minds and our emotions and our social skills and all those sort of things to handle it when life kicks us in the junk, right? When dad has the heart attack, when you get the divorce, when you lose the job, whatever that thing is, you're better apt to handle that involuntary hardship if you choose voluntary hardship on a daily, consistent basis in life. And the argument I'm going to make today is that I think the most general thing that you can do is to just get strong. It's not complicated. I'm not going to make it complicated. As a matter of fact, one of the main things I'm going to focus on today is the simplicity of this. It is incredibly simple. The one thing that Jaeger got wrong, well, first off, I was on my way down to a Fight Strong class. It's a 6-hour drive for me years ago when I used to teach this class. And I evolved into the online coaching industry, and I was kind of doing it on my own. It was a one-man show. And I was like, how do I scale this? Because I can't, I had 100 clients or 150 clients. I was like, I can't do 300 clients by myself. How do I scale this? And on the drive here, literally to Camden, I realized how I could scale the business. And I pulled into a gas station. I would not suggest to do this. I pulled out my laptop, I put it in the passenger seat, and I typed with one hand and drove and just made lots of, mistakes and just made bullet points to think through the thing. And then I got here, Jaeger, greeted me, gave him a hug, and I was like, I need to work for 2 hours. And I went back into the gym and I worked for 2 hours and I fleshed out the business model that is the company today. And that was in 2016. And so it has just been a wild ride. And so I would teach this class and Jaeger would tell the class, they would say, you need to come to this class, or he would promote it on YouTube. And I, was on videos with him. And he said, because the day's coming when Matt Reynolds is going to be big enough that he's not going to be able to have time to come here. He was wrong about that, because I'm not a super gun guy. Everything I've learned about the tactical industry, I've learned from this family. But you guys have treated me like family. These are the longest shorts I own. I don't own a pair of cargo shorts. I don't own them, right? So I'm a little different. By the way, I love to train. I've taken lots of classes here. It's a blast. It's incredible. But because alumni is family, when Heather asked if I'd come, it was a snap answer. Of course I'm coming. Yes, I'm busy, right? No, I probably can't go to the range this weekend. I got to go back to the Airbnb and do some work and do the stuff. But I'm coming because you are family to me as alumni, because you've treated me the same way, even though I'm like the fitness guy and the strength guy. And so I'm very grateful for that. So that's me. That's my background. So hopefully that gives a little bit of credibility to what I'm about to say. So voluntary hardship refines every single time. Involuntary hardship doesn't, but we're all guaranteed to have to experience involuntary hardship in our life. And the voluntary hardship that we choose better prepares us for the involuntary hardship that hits us later. Make sense? All right. So what's the big deal about strength? Why am I up here talking about strength and not about cardio? Or if you start to think about, in the grand scheme of things, all of the physical abilities or attributes you could have, right? There's strength, there's mobility, there's speed, there's power, there's agility, there's cardiovascular fitness, there's all of those things. Why do I focus on strength first?
All of those involve being strong.
That's right.
In some manner or another.
Every one of those is a function of strength. Every one. Strength makes every physical ability better, and it's not a two-way street. You know this. Let's just use logic. You take somebody who's totally sedentary, sits on their couch, watches Netflix, and we teach them how to squat, and they do a full range of motion squat. They get more strong, but they also get more mobile. Their mobility gets better because they learn how to squat. Little kids, you watch a little kid, a 2-year-old, do a picture perfect squat. It's a natural human movement to do that we lose over time because we don't practice it. So we're talking about normal human movements with normal barbells, starting very simply. When we do it, we get stronger, but we also get more mobile, and we also get more agile, and we also build more power. And if you've never done a really heavy set of 5 squats, it is a cardiovascular event, let me tell you. I know, like my Apple Watch, I turn on, my heart rate's at 172. After I do a set of squats of squat 405 for 5, I get done, I'm like, it's 170. It's a cardiovascular event. Now, is it the be all end all? Is it the only thing you need to do? No. But it's not a two-way street. If I take that same person who's sedentary, who sits on the couch, who watches Netflix, who's detrained, untrained, whatever you want to call it, never done anything, and instead of making them strong, I take them to yoga class. And there's nothing wrong with yoga. They do mobility work, right? They get more mobile, but they do not get more strong. Understand the difference? You all know the skinny fat guy that runs around your neighborhood 5 miles every morning, who continues to be, he's probably in cardiovascular great shape, but he's skinny fat, he has no muscle, he's not harder to kill. The chances of him getting killed in a car accident compared to a guy that's strong is much higher. The chances of him having, like, again, it's all cause mortality. So we start with strength because strength has the greatest ROI on everything else, and everybody's busy. Side note, I just wrote a book that Forbes is publishing December 10th. The concept is that we're all busy, right? When we were kids, somebody asked my dad, how's it going? You know, like you do, like, hey, how's it going? He would say, good. Now when you say, how's it going? Everybody says, busy. And so the book is about how to remove urgency from your life and focus on the stuff that really matters, like family, faith, fitness, whatever. So the big deal about strength is that it gives us the greatest ROI for our time. You don't have to spend 2 hours a day, 6 days a week to get strong. You need about 45 minutes, 3 times a week, and you'll get stronger than you've ever been in your whole life. Everybody has that much time. Again, I'm a CEO of a company with 300 employees, and I can still train. I get up early and I knock it out before the world explodes every morning with emails and nutso stuff. So everybody can do that. So strength matters because strength gives us the greatest ROI. So I talk a lot about the big box gym problem. And let me just say, I'm a huge fan of home gyms. I'm a huge fan of home gyms for lots of reasons. But one, if you think about the value of your time, home gyms don't cost very much. It's not like playing golf where you've got to spend $5,000 on a set of clubs and then after a year you upgrade to it. It doesn't work that way, right? Good equipment, I don't care what equipment. You go buy equipment on Craigslist, on Facebook Marketplace, get anything. When COVID shut down all the gyms, we had people using 50-pound dog food bags and going to Lowe's and buying sandbags and putting concrete in 5-gallon buckets. And we did what we could. We got real creative about how to do it, right? So the question is, when I start thinking about how I get strong, what I love about home gyms is that, one, there's no commute, which means there's no excuse. It's in your basement, it's in your garage, it's in a spare bedroom. It's I've got a cabin, so I've got a house and I've got 10 acres and a cabin. I built a squat rack on the porch outside attached to the wall of the cabin. So when I go to the cabin, I can still train, right? No excuse. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. There isn't a town within miles of that place, but I can still train. But the other thing is you get to model it for your family. I trained my wife. We train together. She's not as strong as me, but she's pretty dang strong. And she models it for our daughters. I have 2 daughters, 19 and 14. And mama has modeled it for them. And so big box gyms are a meat market of depravity. You guys know this, right? I don't want to go in there with the college girls wearing booty shorts. And I want to do the thing I'm supposed to do. I want to train. I want to get in. I want to get out. I don't want to commute. I love home gyms. But the other issue with the big box gym, I call it the mom problem. I use my mom as an example. If my mom goes to a big box gym, you guys know what I mean when I say big box gym, right? Planet Fitness, Lifetime Fitness, whatever, any gym with the name fitness in it. There is an unlimited, infinite number of exercises they could do. I don't know where to start. My mom wouldn't know where to start. Hopefully my mom would know at this point, but she still might not, right? Your mom doesn't know where to start. And a lot of you might not know where to start. You got the machines, you've got the cardio equipment, you got the free weights back there in the back with the scary guys. What do I do? Where do I start? And so there's this infinite number, and so they just do something. And by the way, anything, I'm never going to be one of those guys that says, if you don't train optimally, I'm going to give you a hard time. If you've sat on your couch and been sedentary and you start by walking around your neighborhood with your wife or your husband and you guys do that, I do that with my wife every single morning, do it. That's a great step in the right direction, right? I want to teach you the simplest way to get the greatest return on investment. And so what we do is we apply criteria to this infinite number of exercises that you could possibly do to narrow it down to a very small number of exercises that work the entire body in the shortest amount of time. And this criteria has come from decades of work. And so when we think about all of the potential exercises that you could do, we pick exercises that use or train the most muscle mass per exercise. So think about like a one-arm dumbbell curl, right? How many muscles are getting trained? Just the biceps mostly. That's pretty much it, right? One joint moves, right? Whereas if I think about the bench press or the squat, but we'll use the bench press, now how many joints are moving in this, right? Obviously I'd be laying down, but you guys get the idea, right? Well, now it's my shoulders, my pecs, the front of my shoulders, the back of my shoulders, my lats, my triceps, my biceps, my forearms, my grip. So it's more bang for the buck. That's the point. So, and an easy way to know what exercises use the most muscle mass is what exercises make the most joints move. So if I squat and I put a bar on my back and I squat down, right, my hips are moving, my knees are moving, my ankles are moving, and all those facet joints down my vertebra, down my back are also held in tight, rigid extension. They're also getting trained. So essentially a squat will train every muscle in the body from where the bar's sitting on your back all the way down to the bottom of your foot. That's return on investment. But you know what sucks about a squat? It's really, really hard. And it really, really sucks. It's voluntary hardship. It's real easy to go in and do the machines and get all hot and sweaty and feel like you did something, but that's not training, that's exercise. I'm not trying to convince you to exercise. I'm trying to convince you to get strong. Not powerlifter strong. Let me be clear. I'm not trying to turn you into powerlifters. I'm not trying to turn you into strong men. You could take an average person here who won't do this, but let's say if you can squat 100 pounds, which is not very strong, and I can take your squat from 100 to 200, I doubled your strength. I can do that in about 6 weeks. I can double your strength in 6 weeks. That's a massive improvement, right? Now, is there a law of diminishing returns at some point? Of course, or we'd all squat 1,000 pounds, and we don't, right? And so I'm not trying to get you to squat 1,000 pounds. I'm trying to get you generally strong because generally strong people are harder to kill. So choose exercises that use the most muscle mass, right? In normal human movement patterns that are relatively easy to learn, like low skill. Again, think about it. The 2-year-old that squats, that's a normal human movement pattern. We were made to squat. We're made to press. You get these trainers that make you do all these weird exercises, overhead squats and like snatches. It's like, no, we're not like, I'm not saying those are worthless, but for the average person, it's return on investment for the time. If it's a high skill movement that's really hard to learn, then it's going to take a long time to get good at it. And I can pick something else that I can teach you in one day, and you're going to be way, way better, right? So exercise use the most muscle mass, normal human movement. For the greatest effective range of motion, everybody kind of knows this. This is not a bench press. It's got to touch my chest and the elbow has to lock out, right? This is not a squat. I don't know what it is, but it's not a squat. What makes it a squat?
Go all the way down past that.
You go below parallel. The hip has to cross the knee joint. And at that point, I'm working the most muscle mass, right? It comes back to number 1. And 4, while using the most weight with absolutely perfect form. Now, not the most weight on day 1, because if somebody hired me, I start them extremely conservatively. I mean, like often with the empty barbell. And I add like 5 pounds per workout, every workout, until we can't do that anymore. For women who, especially like overhead presses, I might only add 2.5 pounds. I might add 1.5 pounds. I might add 1.25 pounds. And I do that every single time. I have quantifiable evidence that they are getting stronger. So that's the criteria. So when we take that criteria of, we use exercises, we take this big box gym again, the Planet Fitness of the world, and we pick exercises that use the most muscle mass, normal human movement patterns, greatest effective range of motion, so big range of motion, using the most weight possible. That's how we get strong. When we apply those criteria to the infinite number of exercises, we get an amazingly short list of exercises that are highly effective. What's the most effective exercise?
Squat.
A squat. It's also the hardest. What's another really effective exercise?
Deadlift.
A deadlift. It's probably the second most effective exercise. What's another one?
Bench.
A bench press. And the last one is an overhead press, what you might call a military press, right? It is perfectly healthy on the shoulders if you do it correctly. If you do it wrong, you screw yourself up. That's why sometimes you need a coach. So we take those 4 exercises, literally those 4 exercises, the squat, the deadlift, the bench press, and the overhead press. And we often add a few bodyweight exercises like chin-ups or pull-ups, dips, maybe some sit-ups. But for the most part, those 4 exercises make up 90% of your program for about 90% of your training life. And that's all you have to do. Now, what's the downside of that? Pretty boring. It's pretty boring to just keep going in and adding 5 pounds to the bar. But this is the CrossFit problem. CrossFit wants to constantly like change stuff up and be exciting and all this stuff. Like, well, okay, they're professional exercisers. They don't train. They're not strong. I know I own Strong. I had a CrossFit affiliate there and they were like in really good shape, but they weren't very strong and they were hurt all the time. Why are we doing this? Like, let's pull back for a second at the 30,000 foot view. Is to improve our quality of life. Most of these fitness professionals and the influence, guys, I hate the fitness industry. I hate fitness influencers. I hate people who want to take pictures of their abs and their butt, bikinis and whatever and post it on the internet. That's not who we train. We don't train 22-year-old kids who are taking pictures of their abs. We're training soccer moms and dads. We're training normal people to get generally strong, to improve their quality of life because we're playing the long game, right? That's the key. We're playing the long game. But for me, I'm trying to take dominion and be able to lead my family well, protect and provide my family, teach my girls, think about not just them, but think about my future grandkids and my future great grandkids. I'm playing the long game, which means I'm not playing the abs game or the butt game or the Instagram game. I'm playing the long game so that I can be there to watch my great granddaughters walk down the aisle at their wedding. That's why we do this, right? So there is a paradigm shift. Look, everybody wants to look better. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're like, I just want to look better, I want to lose some weight, like you probably should. And that is a side effect of getting stronger. You get stronger, you look better, right? Everybody wants to look better. It's fine. But when looking better is the only goal, like what's the sport? You guys know the sport in the strength training world where the goal is just to look good?
Oh, bodybuilders.
Bodybuilding. Do you know how healthy those guys are when they're on stage? They're this close to death. They're this close to death. The amount of drugs they're on, the diuretics they're on, the insulin they're on, that I've eaten no carbs and I've had no water to drink for 3 straight days. That's why they drop dead at 35. Let's be clear. We're not training that way. We're training for longevity and quality of life improvement. And when you do that, when life throws you the worst of the worst, like it did Paul Markle with cancer, or when it throws James Yeager ALS, then you're able to keep your quality of life high for as long as possible. What do most people do? Quality of life goes up in their 20s, and then it slowly degrades their whole life. I want to go up like this, have an incredible quality of life, and then one day die. Now that sounds morbid, but isn't that the better way to go?
Yeah.
So that when I get the cancer or when I get the thing, and like, God, please, let's not, but I'm better able to fight it and maintain my quality of life and live a longer life and a higher quality of life for as long as possible, right? Until my days are done. So that's why we do this thing. Okay. Let me tell you a story about this lady. One of the next things I often hear from a crowd like this is, well, I have a really bad back, or I have screwed up knees, or I've got a torn rotator cuff, right? This is Miss Sybil. She's 89 years old. She has a son. He's like in his mid 60s. He looks great. I mean, he looks like he's 45, 47. And he would come and get training sessions from me back when I owned the gym at Christmas and Thanksgiving when he visited her. And he would say, man, I wish I could get you to train my mom, Miss Sybil. I said, I'll train your mom. He said, yeah, I don't think she'll come to the gym. She's never been to a gym. She's, at the time, I think she was 80. And I've been training her for nearly 10 years now. And I said, okay, well, I mean, let me know what I need to do. They ended up inviting me to her house in Springfield, Missouri. And I went to her house and she made me biscotti and we did biscotti and drank coffee. And I taught Miss Sybil how to stand up out of her dining room chair that day. I said, that's a squat. That's a squat. Sybil was, at the time, had been a widow for 7 or 8 years, and now it's 17 years. She had double hip replacements, knee replacement. Most of her back was fused together. She had 1.5 inches cut off of one of her Achilles tendons, right? And I taught her how to squat out of her dining room chair all by herself without putting her hands on her knees, but to actually just stand up out of the chair. I brought a 15-pound kettlebell over. She couldn't get all the way to the floor to pick it up off the floor. She was the pipe organist at her Methodist church, and I went and grabbed a stack of Methodist hymnals and stacked them on the floor and put the kettlebell about right here, and she just bent over and I said, that's a deadlift. Then we got her to the point where she eventually, I trained her for 4 or 5 sessions at her house. I'd teach her how to do push-ups against the wall because obviously she couldn't get on the floor. She's doing push-ups against the wall. One day she says, like, I think I'd like to come to your gym and see it. I'm like, great, come to the gym. She comes to the gym. Skip forward 3 years, she's deadlifting 155 for a set of 5 from the floor, actual deadlift, legit, like would pass in any powerlifting meet. Some of you have seen her and witnessed this. It has dramatically changed her life. She is 89 years old, has lived on her own for 15 years, is independent, has a beautiful home. She was having a hard time getting off the toilet. She was having a hard time getting in and out of her car. She was cognitively very sharp, but her body had broken down on her. Like, again, double hip replacements, knee replacements, all that stuff. To be clear, that was before she met me. That wasn't after she met. And we just started working with what she could do, which was standing up out of a chair. And eventually I would put a dumbbell in her hands and she would stand up out of the chair. Then eventually it was more. And then eventually she's like squatting with a 60-pound med ball out of the chair. And then like, let's lower the chair and let's go to a box. And, we just keep making like small little improvements over time. She will tell you, she tells me every single day that I trained her 2 days ago at the house. She says, you're the only reason I'm not in the nursing home. I still get to be independent because I'm strong. When she gets the osteoporosis test, the doctor's like, I don't understand how you could have bone density this good at 89 years old. She's like, I've squatted and deadlifted for 10 years. That's why we do it. So the question is, what's your excuse? If Miss Sybil can do it, why can't you do it if you have a bad back or bad knees? So if you have a bad back, and a lot of us do, most of us do, if you're 40, you've probably herniated a disc in your back. Now, if you don't do anything, does your back get weaker or stronger?
Weaker.
And when it gets weaker, it gets more vulnerable to injury, not more resilient. The muscle's not injured, the joint is injured. When you have hip replacements, the muscles around the hips are not injured outside of what they cut on the surgery. The joint is screwed up. What happens when we make the muscle around the joints strong?
Fixed.
It protects the joint. People don't throw their back out deadlifting. I mean, occasionally it happens, but it's pretty rare, especially with good form. They throw their back out dropping their keys on the floor. We've all done this. You drop your keys on the floor, you bend over and you twist. There it is, right? Amazingly enough, people that deadlift all the time also don't throw their back out when they drop their keys on the floor because their backs are resilient and less vulnerable to injury. So build up the muscles around the knees, build up the muscles around the hips, build up the muscle around the shoulder, the elbows, the back, and you'll become way more resilient and less vulnerable to injury. If 89-year-old Sybil can do this, you can do this. She has every reason for an excuse. There's barely a joint in her body that's still real. She's like the $6 million woman. She's like the bionic woman, right? And so, but she still does it. And she does it every day. And yes, at 89, she's not as strong as she was at 85. But at some point, there is a day at 85 for her where you start taking little tiny amounts of increment off the bar. I don't make her deadlift 150 anymore. She deadlifts 105. That's okay. She's 89, right? So like anybody can do this. Like that's the point. Okay. Now here's the thing. This is so simple. It has to be simple and hard to be effective. It comes back to the voluntary hardship. It is literally as simple, and I'll help anybody that wants help here. I'll give a shout out to my content that we make. So we're a service company, right? We make money from training clients. We make our money from service. We put out massive amounts of content. We have a massive YouTube channel. We have one of the most popular podcasts in strength training. Anything you want to learn about, like how to squat properly or how to do basic starting programming, or we've got ebooks. My editor-in-chief is an attorney. He's incredible, an incredible copy editor, right? He helped copy edit my book for Forbes. We have an ebook like how to get started, right? That's all free. There's no sales pitch. This is not a sales pitch. As a matter of fact, the thing I tell everybody when they start to hear about me and Barbell Logic, I go, just start consuming the content. It's all free. Why do we make the content? Because at some level, some people will come into that content, they drive down the funnel, and they eventually will hire us as coaches. So I just want to be transparent with you. I would love for some of you to hire us as coaches, hire me as a coach. That would be fantastic. Let's do it. But you can do a lot of this stuff on your own, if not all of it on your own, just by consuming the content. Like, it's all on the YouTube, Barbell Logic, on everything. Barbell Logic YouTube, Barbell Logic Instagram, Barbell Logic, website, all that stuff. Read the articles, get the ebooks. It will tell you exactly how to program to make sure that you do the right stuff. In the beginning, your first several workouts are going to take like 30 minutes, 35 minutes. And you're going to do like squat for 3 sets of 5. And then you're going to press, overhead press for 3 sets of 5. When I say 3 sets of 5, I mean 3 sets of 5 reps with the same weight across. It might just be the barbell for all 3 sets. And then you're going to deadlift for like 1 set of 5. Deadlift, you don't have to do 3 sets of 5. And then maybe you try to do some chin-ups, or you put a band around the bar and do some chin-ups or some inverted rows or something. Or maybe just those 3 exercises and get out. And you do that on Monday. You come back Wednesday, you do the same thing, only instead of pressing, you're going to bench press. You're going to squat, you're going to bench press, you're going to deadlift, 3 sets of 5, but you're going to add a little tiny bit of weight to the bar. You're going to put those little 2.5-pound plates on, and you're going to do it. Even if it was easy on day 1, and it will be, but you'll be sore if you haven't done it, not brutally sore. And then you come back on Friday, and you go back and do the workout you did on Monday, but you add a little bit of weight again, and you just keep doing that because it just works. It's brutally simple. Now, what most trainers do is they sell complicated programming, because what they're selling is not service, it's not trust, it's not relationship, it's not technique coaching, it's programs. They sell a program. Well, if I sell a program and it's brutally simple, you're not going to keep buying the program from me. We don't care about how simple the programming is. We care about technique breakdown. What my online coaching business does is you get personalized programming from your coach, you video it on your phone, you video yourself lifting on the app, you upload it to the app, and your coach within 24 hours breaks down all your technique and also talks through your programming and also tries to connect with you as a person. Like, hey, how was your daughter's softball tournament this past weekend? Like, how's the job going? Like, how was training at Tactical Response Alumni Weekend? Like, that's the stuff we do because we're trying to build the trust, which means the programming can stay incredibly simple and hard. It has to be hard. Can't be easy because we know easy doesn't work. And that makes it effective because we're not selling programs, which is what most of the online world does. Like, just pay me $50 and I'll hand you a program. How well does a program work when your kid was throwing up all night the night before? If they sell you a template, a cookie cutter template. I didn't sleep all night last night. I got sick. I had to go on a business trip. We're on a vacation. Well, like, now you're behind. That's the problem. Like, that's not coaching. That's just selling programs. That's not what we do, right? Programming and training is brutally simple, hard, and effective. All right, finishing the race. There's our boy. Look how jacked he is there. Right? I had some part to do in that. Again, I implore you to consider the value that strength training will add to the quality of your life. Many of you have done an incredible job of mastering this world, the tactical world, the gunfighting world. Like, that's fantastic. And we know, like, the vast majority of the world has no idea what the hell they're doing there. But this is a gap for you. And if this isn't a gap for you, figure out where it is, right? Maybe it's nutrition, whatever the thing is. Maybe you got a problem with alcohol. Maybe you got, like, whatever the thing is, find the gap and work on the weak link, right? Finish strong. This guy was the best tactical instructor that ever lived. I will say that not just because of the way he trained me. I watched him train my wife. I don't know how to be a tactical instructor, but I know what good coaching looks like. I've taken my daughters to gymnastics. I've taken my daughters to softball. I don't know how to coach gymnastics, but I can pick out the good coaches because I know what good coaching looks like. That's one of the best coaches that ever lived. The reason we were good friends, we were so close, was because we recognized the skill level of the coaching that we had in our individual industry. So I got the honor of being this man's strength coach. And I also had the honor of him being my tactical instructor, right? Find the weak link and finish strong. 2 years ago at his last alumni, he didn't get up and say, go to the range more, which I'm sure he wants you to do. Practice firing your firearm, practice as much as you can, do the thing, have the mindset, the 4 pillars, all that stuff applies. perfectly, by the way, the 4 pillars, this mindset concept first to strength training. But he didn't say that. He said, listen to this guy and get strong, because at the time that you get ALS or cancer, all the training you did on the range isn't going to help. The strength will. That's why we have to be strong, because we're playing the long game. You guys have done a tremendous job of learning how to play the long game and protect and provide for your families in this industry. Now do it in this one. Now get strong for your kids, for your grandkids, for yourself, so that you can play the long game and be the jacked, wise old grandpa, grandma, great-grandpa, great-grandma, Miss Sybil, Paul Markle, James Yeager. That's why we get strong. That's it. Thank you, guys. Any questions?
This is driving home for you guys. When I met Matt, James took me up there for a squat seminar. I was this height, but 60 pounds lighter. I was like 165, 170 pounds when I met Matt. He was giving us shirts, and all he had was an XL. I was wearing mediums and larges, and he said, the next time I see you, I want you to fit in it.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
So here I am now, you know?
I love it.
Fitting in those XL shirts now.
And it looked great, right? And like harder to kill.
Yeah.
And again, you think about, like, it's crazy. So again, this concept like strength alone has a 4x reduction in all-cause mortality. Strength plus a couple sessions of hard conditioning every week has an 8x, because it's actually synergistic. They work with each other. You can look at the stats. Guys that look like you die less in car accidents. Frail people die more in car accidents. Frail people die with COVID. Frail people die from the flu. Our job's not to be frail and weak, right? I meant to say this, right? You guys, hard times create strong men. You guys have all seen this a million times, right? Strong men create good times. Good times often create weak men, and weak men create bad times. We know where we're at in the cycle, but here's the deal. It's time for us to take it back and be strong men and women, for both. There's a tremendous value in this for both men and women. And here's the deal. I don't think that good times have to create weak men. That is the natural historical cycle of the way this thing works. But it doesn't have to. If you do this well, you model it well for your kids, you model it well for your community, and you teach it well, you can actually have good times continue to lead to good times and more strong men. Isn't that what we're trying to do? I want my kids to take the ball down the field. I hope I've taken the ball down the field from what my parents have done. I hope my kids are far better at 20 than I was at 20. I hope they're far better at 30 than I'm talking about all of it. Strong, mentally resilient, mentally tough, financially stable, all of that stuff. That's my job as a parent. This is one of the things I can do right now. Okay, here's a sales pitch, and I literally want to make this not a sales pitch, right? If you're interested in this, and no pressure whatsoever, let me just be clear. I have not taken a single client in 2 years. I'm the CEO of a massive company, but I do still coach. I make all my executives still coach because I want to see the software. I still love to coach. I got up and coached this morning, broke down videos, programmed, did the stuff. If you want to get coaching from me personally, and I am only offering this to alumni, and listen, it's not going to move the needle for us financially tremendously. I want you to have the opportunity, if it matters to you, you can check that QR code. That QR code will take you. Your first month's 100% free. There's no contracts, which means you can test it for 30 days. If you want to cancel, it's super easy to cancel. You are out nothing. Like, what's the catch? There's no catch. We know this stuff works. You'll get stronger. You'll get better. And if nothing else, you got 30 days free and you got stronger, right? I will coach you at $70 off per month. And again, I just want to be honest. I don't do that. I don't coach for that price. I don't have a single client, not one client that's paying that price right now. So if you're like, still don't know where to start, and I want to start, I want that guy to be my coach, there's the QR code. You can do it. No pressure whatsoever. A lot of you can do this with the content that we've built online. Nate knows this. Heather knows this. Joey knows this. Barb knows this. There's a bunch of people in this community that can help you as well. It doesn't have to be me, but I want to give you the opportunity in case that's something that you want. Cool? You got to be strong, right? Let's go. Let's be people of action. Don't just think about it. Don't just say, like, I'll start tomorrow or I'll start just start. Just start. Well, I don't have barbells and I can't squat and deadlift yet. I don't care. You got 50-pound dog food bags? You got a sandbag? You know, all of you've got body armor you can put on. Like, You got heavy crap you can put on your body and work. Do hard stuff, right? Squat with the heaviest stuff you can put on your body. Like start there if you don't have barbells. Get on Craigslist, get on Facebook Marketplace, buy the crappiest stuff from garage sales that you can. I don't care the quality of your equipment right now. It's just like the 4 pillars. What's the last thing that matters?
Gear.
The gear, right? Get the crappiest barbell. Most of us got started on those old crappy Sears. Remember, like vinyl dip, concrete, terrible plate. That's fine. Start there. I don't care. Just because I run the company I do, that doesn't mean I'm going to make fun of anybody for the equipment they have. I don't care what you have. We can train you anywhere, anytime, from anywhere you want. Our coaching is all totally asynchronous. Like our coaches and clients are all over the world. Like you get to train when you want, where you want, anytime you want, on the app, video yourself, and within 24 hours, I break down your videos from Springfield, Missouri, or from Camden, Tennessee, or from Mexico, or Scotland, or wherever I'm traveling to. So I don't have to be there in person. We don't have to connect that way. It's asynchronous. That's what's cool about it. And it's like 1/3 of the cost of personal training. So it's also way cheaper than hiring a personal trainer.
So I just did that. So like, what would be after that?
Yep. So as soon as you sign up, you'll automatically get a questionnaire. If you decide to do this, you'll automatically get a questionnaire in your email inbox. It'll take you 10 or 15 minutes because we want to hear about your background and what do you have to work with, and do you have any injuries and all that kind of stuff. And then my head of customer service will assign you to me. And what is today? Sunday. By Monday, Tuesday morning, you'll be programmed and you'll be ready to go. Simple as that. Usually what we do is we do a phone call first and just like get to know you, talk through the questionnaire and like, all right, ready to go? Let's go. And you tell me your time. Like I want to train 3 days a week or 4 days a week. We are extremely flexible for you, meaning like I train a ton of executives. They've got a home gym, great home gym, but then they have to train at hotel gyms all the time. Well, hotel gyms kind of suck, but like, what are you going to do? Not train? So we do the best we can with what you got. Like I'm traveling to alumni weekend. I got sandbags and stuff, but it's whatever. We'll train with what you got. Cool. Thank you guys so much for having me. Appreciate it.